The future of cloud gaming on PlayStation is interesting to say the least, and after some of the latest comments from Sony Interactive Entertainment's newest president and CEO, Hideaki Nishino, there's some question as to just how invested PlayStation is in the cloud space. So what exactly was said, and is it the end of PlayStation cloud gaming? Let's break it down. Nishino firmly believes that overall demand remains for the local execution of games, and he even went on to say, cloud streaming is progressing well from a technical standpoint, as we have demonstrated with our offerings, but end-to-end network stability is not in our control, and the higher cost per playtime compared to the traditional console model remains a challenge. Truthfully speaking, he's spot on with this. At this point in time, demand for local play far exceeds cloud gaming, and the proof is in the numbers. Is this bad news for cloud gaming? No, not at all. Remember that these statements change over time, and they're only talking about the near future, and they're using the here and now as evidence to make those decisions. And right now, cloud gaming still has a lot of room to grow in terms of availability, as well as finding solutions to certain problems. He brings up one of the big ones when it comes to the higher cost per playtime compared to a console. Even GeForce Now, which is my preferred cloud gaming service to play on, runs into this issue, hence the 100-hour monthly limit. It's also worth pointing out that Sony's a much smaller company than Nvidia and the other players in this space such as Microsoft or Amazon, and it only amplifies the issue in the grand scheme of things. Following this, Nishino also stated that cloud gaming is increasingly providing an additional option for players to access content, but our belief is that the majority of players continue to want to experience gaming through local execution without dependency on network conditions. And PS5 and PS5 Pro have validated this thesis, I believe. Once again, I don't think the statement's incorrect at all. We're still seeing local gaming devices sell extremely well. The PS5 is outperforming previous Sony hardware, not only in sales but also in playtime. And outside of Sony hardware, Nintendo's new Switch 2 is charting insanely well, breaking records across the board. Let's also not forget the increase in sales for handheld PCs, such as Asus's ROG Ally, the Steam Deck, and much more. We can even talk about Xbox, who really is pushing the play anytime, anywhere mentality. They seem more than ready and willing to partner with other hardware manufacturers to release Xbox branded hardware created by them. The new ROG Ally is proof of that, and we're also getting rumors that they may be announcing a partnership with MetaQuest real soon too. As I've stated plenty of times on this channel, cloud gaming is an option, and it should be an option right now, because it's not perfect yet. If a service works extremely well for me, there may be things that prevent it from working perfectly well for you. There's still a lot of variables that happen when it comes to cloud gaming, and that's why a lot of people swear by different services, because everyone's experience is going to be dependent on their setup. Now this will get better, and it has gotten better over the past few years, but there's still room to grow. And as it continues to advance both in availability and technology, we'll start to see more and more people hop on. But do I think it's ready for everybody who games, which is the vast majority? Not yet, but it's getting there. And truthfully speaking, I do believe that one day it will be the way most people game, but that's still years away. Now, one thing I do want to point out though about Sony's statement is that their PC app is desperately in need of an update. Only the PS5 can stream in 4K, which is a bit of a redundancy. Even me, as somebody who loves the cloud game, I would still rather just download it onto my PS5 if I'm going to play on it anyways. I kind of just use their cloud gaming service to check out something and see if I actually like it. But I can promise you I would be using it a hell of a lot more if it actually let me stream games on my PC in 4K like it does on my PlayStation instead of 1080p. Lastly, I think the most important statement comes from Lynn Azar, who's the SVP of Finance and Corporate Development at Sony Interactive Entertainment, who went on to express that most of the money Sony now makes comes from subscriptions and microtransactions, and that the idea of traditional console cycles is starting to kind of become a thing of the past. Even the PS4 is still performing very well for them revenue-wise, and the big takeaway is the following statement. By providing players with increasing options of how to access the platform, we're able to better target the different play patterns and monetization profiles of different customer segments. And as we continue to drive a multi-generational ecosystem into the future, we'll provide new ways for players to access the platform and experience our content and services. If you ask me, it seems pretty clear that Sony understands the importance of opening up accessibility to their games. That said, we're in an interesting period where companies are definitely shifting from traditional plans. One could say that generations are now a thing of the past. As I mentioned, the PS4 is still bringing in plenty of revenue, and this many years after the PS5's launch, it even sounds like they plan on continuing support for it into the PS6's release. But what exactly does that have to do with cloud gaming? Well, that it's not necessarily their focus in the here and now, but it's also not going to be going away either. Sony says it themselves by providing players with an increasing options of how to access the platform. It shows that accessibility to PlayStation matters, and they plan on increasing the ways people can and will access it, cloud gaming being a huge part of that. We're already seeing the benefits of that with the PlayStation PlayStation Portal, which has been promised further updates to improve that. And honestly, I could totally see them having an update for the PS4 which allows it to stream games in 4K much like the PS5. Not only will it enable more revenue coming in, brought to you by the PS4, but that thing's already in millions of homes out there. Now I do think it'll take quite a while before they start seeing expansion outside of PlayStation hardware because that's kind of their bread and butter right now. But maybe it won't take that long after all. The PC app already exists and it just desperately needs an update. And we're starting to see Sony do some pretty big changes themselves with first party releases. First off, more and more games are coming to PC, but more importantly, they're releasing games as a service games day one on PC. That's already a massive shift for the company, and I'm sure they're willing to make others if it makes sense financially. But why isn't cloud gaming a priority? Well, to me, that's because unlike others in the gaming space, PlayStation's in a really good spot hardware-wise. They're only playing behind Nintendo, which they don't even consider a direct competitor outside of Japan, as stated by former PlayStation Studios boss Shuhei Yoshida. As for Xbox, well, they kinda hurt themselves this generation when it comes to hardware, and now they're doing something radically new with it leading into the next generation. But only time will tell if that eventually pays off for them. It's also much easier for them to push the cloud with their new idea of just kind of putting Xbox on everything possible. Not to mention, they have Azure. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get at here is that this isn't the end of cloud gaming on Sony's end. And they know where they're at. They're pretty good with where they're at. And they're going to continue to follow that path while also exploring additional ways to access their games outside of it. But they're clearly not in a rush and they don't seem to feel the need to be. I have little to no doubt that eventually they'll be adding ways to play their games via the cloud on other hardware outside of PlayStation, but in the near future, that's where their focus is on. They want to give you a reason to use PlayStation hardware, stay in that ecosystem, and buy new hardware. But it's not like they've given up on the cloud. After all, they've released the Portal, and the big feature was the cloud gaming capability, which came through an update that they promised to keep improving. Funny enough, I do think Sony's cloud gaming service is actually high up there in terms of performance and experience. In fact, I'd even call it better than Xbox's or Amazon's right now, just when it comes to playability standpoints. Of course, it completely falters in availability, which is a huge negative considering cloud gaming is all about playing how you want, where you want, but I do think they're in a good spot to expand it whenever they feel is the right time to do so. Of course, as a cloud gamer, I want to see that expansion as soon as possible, but Sony's going to be a business and they're going to try and make the most money out of it the best way they can, and right now, hardware is going well for them. Either way, that wraps up my thoughts on the recent business statements made by Sony, and I would love to hear yours down in the comment section below. Agree with me, disagree with me, I don't mind, just let me know down in the comment section below. It's actually been quite a while since I talk about a topic like this, so let me know what you think, and if you enjoy this content, maybe I'll make some more. It does take a bit more time to make these, but honestly, it's pretty fun to talk about as well. Either way, if you like the video, hit the like button, want more like it, subscribe to not miss out, and as always, this has been Steven from Anytime Anywhere Gaming, wishing you a great day, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.